Okay, let me try this new format here. More of a looser, less polished. I'm not gonna try to delete all the ums and ahs this time. Maybe some, but yeah. So I wanted to talk about midlife crisis. I'm in my mid 40s, and so I just wanted to talk it out. Perhaps just talking. I wrote some notes down, and perhaps just talking this out might help me figure it out. But yeah, it seems like a paradox. On one hand, everything is good. On the other hand, things are, I don't know, bored. No, not bored, but unfulfilled. So yeah, on the good side, yeah, these are absolutely great things. I have my health, play basketball fairly regularly for the last few years. We have a house, roof over our heads. Kids are great, growing up healthy, doing great in school. Family's good. Financially, we're fine. We have no debt other than our mortgage. So yeah, those are absolutely great things. But on the other hand, on the bad side, I guess, is I feel creatively unfulfilled. I don't know. I've been going through a grind, I guess. I think part of that has to do with a lot of what's been going on the past few years, COVID included. Perhaps the biggest thing is all my time is spent on kids and family, and I've been working my way to block out more time to work on creative stuff, but I just feel burned out. So it's hard to get into that creative mode when I do have the time. And yeah, so I just feel like I'm in a slump. There's been a lot of change the last few years. Let's see, I wrote these down. Yeah, it seems like a paradigm shift. So there's very big things that happened. First, we moved out of New York City. We moved out into the suburbs. Part of the reason was COVID. We had one daughter at the time, and we just wanted more space. COVID in the city, I remember COVID in the city was just absolute. It was just not good. And then when I went to visit my brother in the suburbs, it just seemed more relaxed. People were still wearing masks and stuff, but only when you go to the store. But like at home, you have your yard and whatnot. But in the city, I don't know. It was just a crazy time. Obviously, just even the thought of pushing the elevator button was, yeah, it just takes its toll on you when you didn't know what was going on with COVID. But another big reason was we left. We were part of a mega church in the city that basically imploded. You may be aware of what happened. I mean, it's been in the news. There's been documentaries. Yeah, it was just a big implosion of what happened. And we were part of that church. We had been going there for about 10 years. That was ground shattering, earth shattering for us and a lot of our friends and basically the entire church. But yeah, for 10 years, that was, we had been going there for, since we moved into the city. And then that's basically where a lot of our social friends came from. And we were quite involved. We made all of our close friends there. Yeah, and it all got blown to pieces. Yeah, we're still good friends with the friends that we made. Yeah, it was just a tragedy how the whole scandal, it basically blew it all apart. Even though our friendships survived, but just the whole structure, the organization of it allowed us to connect more. And it kind of basically forced us to connect weekly with our friends. But now that that's kind of gone and a lot of people scattered to the winds, a lot of people moved out of the state. You know, obviously with the internet, we can still keep in touch, but yeah, it just is not the same of what it once was. I have a lot of thoughts about that, but maybe I'll get to it another time. But yeah, I've been going through some deconstruction prior to that. Kind of like the straw that broke the camel's back was a whole paradigm shift of basically the way I grew up my entire life. So yeah, that was the whole church thing, friends thing. And then when we moved out into the suburbs, it was almost like starting over. And I guess it's also what a lot of parents go through is when you become parents, when you're on that cusp of, being single to being, well, I guess before kids and after kids, a lot of times what happens is you can no longer just go out on a whim. Everything has to be planned, and a lot of your social interactions with your non-child having friends, a lot of that suffers because it's a different stage in life. But anyway, now I'm rambling. So I think there was a lot of ground shifting things that happened. The whole church scandal, moving out of the city to a whole new environment, having kids. We had another kid. We had another daughter since moving out here. But yeah, I mean, I absolutely love my kids and I love everything about them. But also at the same time, it's like when I dedicate all my focus on that. And also it's been a challenge to do actual shooting gigs, actual creative work, being out here and away from the city. And it's not so easy to go into the city for like a 9 a.m. or 8 a.m. call time and wrapping up at like 6 or, after and coming back. It's just not feasible. So a lot of my work has been curtailed. And so I've been kind of in a transition period of trying to figure out what to do next. Oh yeah, let me just reemphasize. I totally understand that I have nothing to complain about with this situation and the blessings that I have. And I know that people have it a lot worse, and I've seen it, I've witnessed it, I've traveled quite a bit, and I've seen the richest of the rich to the poorest of the poor. At the same time, everyone goes through stuff. And so I think a lot of times, this is a little side tangent, but I think a lot of times when somebody's going through something really bad, but you're also going through something bad, but it's not as bad as, them. And then they're just like venting or whatever. And you have your own issues, but it's not, obviously it's not there, but they're venting and it's like, you just kind of be quiet, because obviously they have it worse. Just having a personality of being an observer first. I've always kept quiet in terms of complaining and stuff. So all this complaining, it's not taken away from how blessed I am and how lucky I am. So I am fully aware this is just a place where I want to talk through things. Actually, I wrote this down. So if you're only allowed to complain if you have it worse, then nobody would be allowed to complain except the absolute last person who has it the absolute worst. But we all know that everyone complains, so this is my space to complain about my midlife crisis. All right, so this is the midlife crisis, I guess, is a familiar feeling. In high school, I had a quarter life crisis, and I remember that. In high school, I was always, growing up, I was always a quiet kid, always an observer, never felt like I had anything to say. So I would just be quiet and I just listen and observe things and people. And growing up in high school, junior high, I never knew exactly what I wanted to do or what college I wanted to go to. I remember all my friends would be like, "Oh, I want to apply to this college," and I'm like, I don't know what college I want to apply to. But all my friends, they all knew exactly where they wanted to go, what they wanted to do. And at the time, they all kind of wanted to be doctors, I guess. So I was like, all right, I'll be a doctor too. So in high school, I kind of gravitated toward the sciences and math. I was good at that. My weak point was history and reading and English and all that stuff. And writing, I hated writing. I would still study my butt off. I was a good student, but I ended up starting to drink a lot of sodas, a lot of caffeine to stay up and do the homework and finish. And then I started getting straight A's until junior year, where we had a English term paper that was 10 pages long. We had to write 10 pages. I mean, that was just Mount Everest to me. I could never, it was just too daunting. And I couldn't get myself to do it. So I failed English. So I had to take summer school, failed that. And then I ended up having to take night school in the fall. And I barely got past that, but that was a lot easier. Summer school is still challenging in terms of writing the paper. But colleges, I applied to just one school, and that was Maryland, University of Maryland. I was doing pre-med track, and then I just burned out. First semester, I flat out fell on my face, and I failed every class. So yeah, it was a quarter life crisis. I looked at my future. I was like, okay, if I want to be a doctor, you have to graduate college for 4 years. You do 4 years, then you go to med school, then you do your residency, and then maybe get into a specialty after that. But I think I was calculating, like, by the time you're kind of settled into becoming a doctor, you're like in your 40s. And I was like, that's so much studying. And being burned out, I just didn't, it was just too much. So I had a quarter life crisis. I was like, I don't know what I want to do anymore. I was just completely lost. And I think I'm a visionary. Like, I need to see the end goal before I actually start moving in the direction. And because I didn't have an end goal, I was just lost. So that was an existential crisis, I remember, in my high school, college years. So yeah, life turned out okay. Life turned out good since then, but also at the same time, I'm kind of feeling, it's not obviously that dramatic, but I'm kind of feeling that angst, that midlife crisis. Okay, so I wrote this down, that this isn't the end goal. As you grow up, you go through school, then you apply to college, you go to college, then you graduate, get a job, you find a spouse, a girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever, and you get married, you buy a house, you have kids, you travel. All of those things are things to, I guess, strive for, but it's not the end goal. When you're younger, a lot of times, I guess after your party phase, finding a life partner, getting married isn't the end goal. But it seems like it's a huge goal. It's not about finding a person to get married and then you live happily ever after. That's just a fairy tale. What I think is it's about finding the right person and then pursuing something together. Because if your pursuit is just simply, the end goal is to simply find someone to be happy with, somebody to marry, you're going to get bored. After you get married, you're going to realize that if that's your goal and that's your 100% goal, then you'll achieve it someday. And then you're going to realize, like, oh, okay. But then after that, you know what? Having a family, buying a house, and those aren't the end goals either. Those are goals to strive for, but it's a continual movement. So once you achieve it, your end goal, your goalposts move to something else further down the line. So stimulus becomes numb when it's constant. So if, for example, if I remember this in high school, I remember a teacher taught us this. If somebody puts their finger on you right here, you're going to feel it at first. But then if they stay there, they don't move, eventually you're not going to feel that finger on your arm anymore. So achieving a goal becomes numb when you stay there, when you stay at that goal that you achieved. So you want to keep moving it. You want to go to the next step, the next goal. Where does that leave me in my midlife crisis? I guess we've achieved the goal of getting our kids into a somewhat settled state past the initial newborn early years stage. I'm starting to have more time to myself, more time to think more clearly. It's coming to a time where I need to focus on my next goals. When you're young, obviously you feel like you can live forever. But I'm at that age where I'm starting to feel my mortality, where time is just slipping away very fast. I'm starting to see friends' parents suffer from illnesses and whatnot that you always looked up when you were younger. You always were like, oh, that's for old people. But yeah, now people that I'm in circles with, they're having health issues. Some people have passed away. Anyway, I'm starting to feel my mortality. I think what I want to take this time of pause is looking at this midlife crisis as a halftime to reflect. I used to give this advice to people, and I started doing it myself, was keep a log of all the times that you've impacted somebody. So like I said, growing up, when I was young, I was very shy and I felt like I didn't have anything to say of importance to anybody. And I was just an observer, but an NPC. But somehow throughout my past, sprinkled in my past, I remember there were moments where I would genuinely connect with people and give them advice or words of encouragement or something that made them really feel encouraged, to the point where it surprised me that, I said those things to them and it actually helped them. So anyway, I started taking notes. I started keeping a spreadsheet every time I did that. So the first column would be like the date, the person, what they were going through, and then what I said and how I felt like I helped them. And then I left a column at the end for any kind of like resolution, anything happen. And I left it open in case I do hear back. A lot of times I didn't hear back, but for my friends that I would continual contact, I would write down at the last column any resolution. I think what this does is we tend to forget, especially when you're going through like something bad or just like a low point, we tend to forget all the good points in our life. So this is kind of like a journal. A lot of people, more traditionally write journal entries. Me being the analytical person, I just started writing a spreadsheet. I started keeping that for a period of time, but reading back on those, it just kind of reminded me that I was useful and meaningful to others, that I did make an impact on another person in a more deeper way instead of just like a shallow, superficial way. But yeah, I think it really. Actually, let me go pull it up. Okay. All right, here it is. Yeah. Just reading through these, I guess it makes me realize that I actually did help people and that I'm not just a fly on the wall NPC. And I do have an impact. I did have an impact, and I still have that ability to impact other people in a positive way. I just find it difficult to get excited about things anymore. It's just been a challenge. Or it's like, I know this used to be fun, but I don't know. It's just no longer. It's just not really motivating me as much anymore. I remember one trip, we had a family trip to the border of Canada, up in the Thousand Islands region. It's basically on the border of Canada and New York. And I remember I saw this one Instagram picture of this. It's right next to Bolt Island, which is a big tourist island. There's this castle on there and you can kind of walk around and it's pretty cool. But right next to that big island is a tiny little island with a single house on it, and is just barely big enough to hold that house. And there's like a tree. And I remember I saw this Instagram picture and it was really, really cool. And I wanted to get that picture myself. And so I had a drone and we were up there with the family. That was a trip where I realized this thing with being frustrated. I just needed 20 minutes to just get the drone up in the air and fly out there, take the picture, take a few pictures, and then come back. But it was, first of all, it was really hot. It was like in the middle of summer, really, really hot day to travel. But also the kids were just it was just Penny at the time. She was, grumpy because of the heat. We were all grumpy. And she was being fussy, and we had to kind of keep her entertained. And I got so frustrated because I just wanted some time just to fly my drone and get that picture. I couldn't find the time. Finally, there was a period of time we were in the parking lot, and I totally could have flown it at that time for a quick trip and taken the picture, although it probably wouldn't have turned out as good as the one that I saw on Instagram. Yeah, I was so frustrated and I got really upset. That was the trip I came to the realization that if you have your expectations here and this is what you achieve, this difference is the frustration. If you don't achieve this goal that you set and you only come this high, this difference is what really gets you upset, really gets you frustrated. So that's when I realized if you just lower your expectation, you will never get frustrated. And I think that has been an ongoing theme of a lot of my creative desires, urges. Things that I wanted to do creatively would constantly get frustrated due to just other commitments. And especially with creative stuff, you need that like brain space. You cannot have something else lingering to be fully creative, I feel, or for me personally at least. And so I just basically lowered my expectation to where it now came to a point where I'm just not doing anything creatively. I think that's a big part of my crisis, my midlife crisis. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's it. So where do we go from here? I think what I want to do is go back and look back on my life and dig through my archives. And luckily I have a lot of my life archived in photographs and videos. And I've been meticulous about organizing it so I'm not lost looking for things. But I think what I want to do is look back and reflect on the life that I've lived and just to find that joy, just to find that thankfulness, gratitude of the life that I have lived. And from there, I think I can figure out a way to move forward and get out of this funk. So, yeah, I think that's what I'll do.